Okay, lesson 3.6 is going to use some more identities here that are kind of similar to what we've already talked about. So kind of recall what we've done so far, the sum and difference identities and a double angle and half angle identities. Now what we're going to look at are probably the two easiest ones here are what's called the product to sum and sum to product identities. Okay, now these are on your reference sheet here. They're also in the textbook, so you can look up the textbook on the electronic version of the textbook on the software. All right, but product to sum here, if you'll look at these, you've got the product of two functions, a sine function and another sine function. So the sine of A times the sine of B is equal to 1/2 times the cosine of A minus B minus the cosine of A plus B. Okay, and then you have similar ones here. So I call this one my sine one. It has two sines in it. Now you also have a cosine sine one. So you have cosine A times cosine B. And notice this right here, and on the first one, it's multiplication there. So that's where we get product. And sum, and even though this does say minus right there, that's a sum because we can look at it as addition of the opposite. So now this one's a little different. This one's got 1/2 times the cosine of A minus B. And now this one says plus right there instead of the cosine of A plus B. Okay, and then you have ones where we're going to change them here. So we're going to do sine A times cosine B. And so this one is equal to 1/2 times sine of A plus B plus the sine of A minus B. Okay, and now finally the last one, we're going to switch this order right here. And so it's probably a little different than what you would think here. You have cosine A times sine B equals, kind of similar here, 1/2 times the sine of A plus B. But then this one's going to say minus the sine of A minus B. And so there are lots of patterns there. You don't really have to memorize these. These will be given to us when we take a quiz or a test using these. Now, so notice the big idea here is this is a product. All those are products because they're multiplication. And over here, all of these are sums. Now, let's look at the other way around here. So we also have sum to product here. So we've got 4 of these that are sort of similar here. So on my sum to product here, we're going to look at these. We're going to do sine of A plus sine of B. So there goes your sum idea. Okay, we're going to fill this in just a second. I'm going to write it this way this time. And so we have sine of A minus sine of B. And then cosine A plus cosine B. And then cosine of A minus cosine of B. Okay, so we'll notice a pattern in these. This first one here, sine A plus sine B, is equal to 2 times the sine of A plus B over 2 times the cosine of A minus B over 2. Okay, so the other ones are very, very similar here. The next one is just going to take the same one here. I'll just do this. So it's basically going to be the same thing, except for a couple of differences here. We're just going to swap a couple of signs. This is going to be A minus B now there. and this will be A plus B. Okay, on my next one, so what's going to change there are the functions here. So this one's going to change to cosine for this one. Okay, and then on my last one here, this one's a little different. I'm going to write this one out. This one's -2 times the sine of A plus B over 2. And remember, A and B here are going to be angles times the sine of A minus B over 2. Okay, now when we start using these, this will make probably a little bit more sense to you. But there again, out of all these identities that we've talked about, sum and difference, half angle, double angle, these two are the easiest. Sum to product and product to sum are. Now, let's look at some examples here. So I'm going to start off with a product here. And so our directions are going to tell us that if we have, let's say, sine of 7 theta times the sine of 5 theta, to take the product and to write it as the sum using sine and cosines. So all I need to do is figure out, well, which identity here am I talking about? Well, notice this is definitely a product because I'm multiplying. So I'm going to take a product to a sum. Now notice this product is the sine one. So let's go back. So the one that I need here would have been this first one that I'd written down. So we'll recopy that. And again, we can copy just straight off of our reference sheet. So I'm going to copy exactly that, the sine one. So on the sine one here, we've got sine of A times sine of B equals, we have 1/2 times the cosine of A minus B plus the cosine of A plus B. Okay, now this is real simple. All we have to identify here is what's the A, what's the B. So the A up there would be the 7 theta, and then the B would be the 5 theta. So now all I have to do is substitute 7 theta in for A and 5 theta in for B. So this will be fairly simple here. So this will be 7 theta there, and then minus 5 theta right there. So that's just going to end up being 2 theta. And on my other one here, I'm going to have 7 theta plus 5 theta. And so that'll be 12 theta. So now we'll get 1/2 times the cosine of 2 theta plus the cosine here of 12 theta. Okay, and now we can just distribute our half through that now. So this is going to give me 1/2 times the cosine of 2 theta plus 1/2 times the cosine of 12 theta. Okay, and so now it's the sum here of two things here that involve either sine or cosine. In this case, both of them there are cosine. So that was sort of a sine example there. And I think I copied this wrong, so hang on, let me back up. Sine of A times sine of B, it's 1/2 cosine of A minus B. It should be minus here. So let me bring this down now. There we go. Okay, now let's try another example. Maybe I won't screw this one up. Okay, let's do this one. Let's do the cosine of 2 theta times the cosine of 6 theta. Okay, so notice this one is a sort of the cosine one. So I'm going to go back. Let's look at those identities here. We're going from a product to a sum. So cosine, notice that's this one. Okay, so I'm going to copy this one because I'm lazy and just paste it over here. Okay, so this is what I'll use here. Now all I have to do is fill in the A and the B. So notice there's the A, there's the B. So A is 2 theta and B is 6 theta. So let's put all this in here. So this will be 2 theta minus 6 theta. That's going to be negative 4 theta. And then 2 theta plus 6 theta, that's just going to give me 8 theta. So let's write this out. I'm going to have 1/2 times the cosine of negative 4 theta plus the cosine of 8 theta. Okay, now we can just distribute the 1/2 here, and then we're going to be done with that. So we'll have 1/2 times cosine of negative 4 theta plus 1/2 times the cosine of 8 theta. Okay, now sometimes what could possibly happen here, if these arguments happen to be the same, then that means I can combine those together. But with those arguments being different, I can't. If for some reason I would have had 8 theta right there, then I could have said the cosine of 8 theta plus the cosine of 8 theta would be 2 cosine of 8 theta, and then the 1/2 times that would have just canceled out the 2. Okay, I think we'll maybe see one like that here in just a minute. All right, let's try another one here. Okay, let's try this one. Let's do the sine here of 7 theta over 2 times the cosine of theta over 2. Okay, so notice that's my sine cosine one. And so that's going to be the second one right there. Okay, so now all I have to do is enter in the A and the B basically. So notice A is going to be 7 theta over 2, and then B is going to be theta over 2. So this is going to be 7 theta over 2 there plus theta over 2, and then this will be 7 theta over 2 minus theta over 2. Okay, so let's make those calculations there. So it's going to give me 1/2 times the sine of, now 7 theta over 2 plus theta over 2 would be 8 theta over 2, which is just going to be 4 theta. And now my other one here, 7 theta over 2 minus theta over 2 would be 6 theta over 2, which would just be 3 theta. Okay, now I'm going to distribute my 1/2 here, so this would be 1/2 times the sine of 4 theta plus 1/2 times the sine of 3 theta. Notice you have to put your argument there in parentheses. Now, you may want to try entering in that to see if it would actually take it. So if you want to try entering in that without distributing the half, go for it, see if it works. Let me know. I couldn't enter it in. I can't get into mine at the moment. Now, let's do one more product here. So we'll have one of each here. So let's do the cosine of 2 theta times the sine of 3 theta. So notice this was sort of a cosine sine one. So let me go back here. And so that's the cosine sine one there at the bottom. And we'll copy it to that. All right. So now all we have to do is fill in the A and the B here. So we got A is 2 theta and B is 3 theta. So we can do sine of, all right, A plus B, so 2 theta plus 3 theta, and then the sine of A minus B, so that would be 2 theta minus 3 theta. Okay, so now this is going to give us 1/2 times the sine of 5 theta minus the sine of 2 theta minus 3 theta would be negative theta. Okay, now we could actually do another step, and I'm going to go back and look at the other one to maybe fix that too. But notice we've got, remember sine is an odd function there. And so the sine of negative theta is equal to the negative sine of theta. And so if we use that identity here, and I think they want us to actually do this here. Let's see if you guys can think how that would change that up. So it'd be sine of 5 theta. And so if we notice, or if we remember that sine of negative theta is equal to negative sine theta, if we apply that odd property there, then this would actually give me plus here sine of theta. Okay, so let's see if we can maybe go back and look at that on other problems here too. I didn't really see it happen there. Okay, notice on this one, we've got cosine of negative 4 theta. And so remember what we've said here, the cosine of negative theta is just cosine of theta. So I could actually probably went a step extra here and just wrote that as 4, or cosine of 4 theta. Okay, it kind of hit me when I was doing that problem there about this one that actually needed one more step there. Okay, now, so let's move on from those. Let's see if I did them all there. Yep, that's it. Okay, now let's see if we can go the other way. All right, so now instead of a product to sum, let's take a sum and go back to a product. So let's take, for instance, the sine of 7 theta minus the sine of 5 theta, and let's write this as a product. So I'm going to go back here, and let me copy this over from our other page here. So that was product to sum. Now we're doing the other. So we're doing, oh, that's right, product, sum to product. There it is. And so what we had was a sine minus a sine. So let's go the one that has sine minus sine here, which would be this second. Okay, so we'll copy this second one over and basically just fill in the formula. Ooh, there we go. Okay, so notice your A value there is 7 theta and your B value there is 5 theta. So now all I have to do is just throw these in my formula. So this one's going to say 7 theta minus 5 theta, and this one's going to say the same thing, 7 theta minus 5 theta. And so in both cases, both of those are going to give us 2 theta. So now we're going to have 2 times sine. Now that's going to be the sine of 2 theta over 2, but 2 over 2 there would just cancel out. So it's just going to be the sine of theta times, and then the same thing would happen here. So 7 theta minus 5 theta would be 2 theta, and then 2 theta over 2 would just be theta. Okay, and that's it. That was actually really, really simple. All right, let's try another one now. Okay, let's do a sum this time, sum to a product. Let's actually do a real sum. So we got cosine, cosine here. So a cosine plus another cosine. And so that's a sum. I'm looking to do a sum to a product. So let's go back and look at our formulas here. So a sum to a product, and I believe what we had was a cosine and a cosine, and it was a sum. So that's going to be this third formula here. So let me copy the third formula. Okay, so all we have to do is identify the A and the B. So notice the A is just theta, and the B is 3 theta. So now we're going to have theta plus 3 theta there, and this one's going to say theta minus 3 theta. And now let's evaluate this. So on the first one, theta plus 3 theta would be 4 theta, and 4 theta over 2 would be 2 theta. So I have 2 cosine of 2 theta. And then on the next one here, theta minus 3 theta would be negative 2 theta. And so negative 2 theta over negative 2 would just be negative theta. Okay, now I'm not going to leave that with a negative theta. So recall the cosine of negative theta is just cosine of theta. That was the even property that we use there sometimes. Okay, let's try a couple more here. All right, let's try this one. Let's take that same problem and let's do the difference one here. So even though it's a difference, we still call it a sum to a product here. I meant to put 3 theta. Okay, so I'm saying basically a cosine minus a cosine is the one that I'm looking for. So the cosine minus the cosine, notice that's the last one here. Let me paste it over here. Oh, it like moved it. Oh well. Okay, so we got the cosine of A minus B. All right, so that's what we've got there now. All right, so notice the A is just theta and the B is 3 theta. So we're going to put in here theta plus 3 theta for A plus B, and then theta minus 3 theta. Okay, now let's evaluate this. So now we'll get negative 2 times the sign. Now theta plus 3 theta would be 4 theta, and 4 theta over 2 would be 2 theta. And now theta minus 3 theta, again, that's negative 2 theta over 2, so that would be negative theta. And so remember, the sign of negative theta is equal to the negative sign. So that would basically make this now with that negative sign in front positive. So it'd be 2 sine 2 theta times sine theta. So there again, if you kind of got lost in that, remember what I'm doing here is saying that the sine of negative theta is equal to the negative sine of theta. And so when we take the negative here and bring it out to the front, and that's because they're multiplication, I bring it all the way out there, that's going to change that to now positive there. Okay, I'm going to do one more, last one here. I'm sure you're probably bored with this. And I really think this one's a little bit overkill, but I wanted to do one of each problem here so you could look at this. Okay, so now this one's sort of a sine plus another sine one. So I'm going to get the sine plus sine one. And so that's actually here our first one. Okay, so notice our A and B here is just 7 theta and 5 theta. So let's substitute those in. So 7 theta plus 5 theta. And then over here, this one's 7 theta minus 5 theta. Okay, so now this is going to be 2 times the sine. 7 theta and 5 theta would be 12 theta over 2 would be 6 theta. And then 7 theta minus 5 theta would be 2 theta, and 2 theta over 2 would just be theta. Okay, we're also going to look at some identities with this, just not on this video here yet. I just wanted you to start off with these to get you going here. So you'll have another video for the rest of this lesson later.